I'm Dr. Rudy Kachmann. Welcome to our show. This is going to be very interesting today, and I appreciate watching our other shows. One's on Monday and one is on Wednesday, and I'm thankful to Public Access providing this opportunity. And this is a critical show today because the name of it, really the end of Alzheimer's disease, stopping, preventing, reversing dementia, memory loss, in an advanced form, Alzheimer's disease. It's 80% of the time. It can be stopped, reversed, helped a great deal, and just to accept it is foolish. There are a number of books have been written on this, so I'm like to tell you, I'm coming from science, and I'll give you the names of some websites and books that you can confirm that this, I'm speaking about science today. Most of the time, we're just accepting and writing scripts which don't work, dumping people into a nursing home, causing people to live into the role. Oh, you got memory loss. Let's put you in the nursing home. I visit some Amish families. I made some house calls, on the Amish, because I found it very interesting. I speak German, so it was natural for me. They never even heard of this disease. Okay, what do? Have somebody has memory loss? To give them a job. What do? We put them in nursing homes. So Peter Whitehouse wrote a book called The Myth of Alzheimer's Disease, maybe 10 years ago. I bought many copies, gave them to neurologists and providers to read, but I don't think one of them ever read them because I talked to them about it. And that sort of sparked my interest in it. And I began to realize that we can frankly prevent, stop, reverse most of dementia. And what was Peter Whitehouse saying? He was the main researcher on the drug Aricept. You know, we're looking for the one drug that will help. Eli Lilly recently announced, you saw in the paper, $1 billion they had spent, found that nothing effective has been found. And the point being, and I'll explain the science to you, that there are many, many factors involved in memory loss, but the good news is most of these things can be stopped, prevented, reversed if you do these things, and it's not that difficult. Another book, The End of Alzheimer's Disease by Dale Bredesen, right here. I encourage you to read it. And on his cover he even says, first program to prevent, reverse cognitive, memory decline. That part I think is incorrect because I had it on my website. I wrote a book about it after Peter Whitehouse. So our books really even preceded this. But he has a good program. The science is excellent. He's a professor and founding president at the Buck Institute at UCLA. I encourage highly that you would read this because there's the latest science and a program on how to prevent, stop, reverse dementia, Alzheimer's disease majority of the time. So I encourage you to read Peter Whitehouse's book. Then I wrote a book, frankly, the name of my book was? Because no one was giving anybody hope. The name of my book is The Fraud of Alzheimer's Disease. You can look it up. And again, my main reason in there was we are causing people to live into the role. We write them a script of about 4 different drugs, Aricept being the main ones. They don't work, maybe a month or two. They're not working because they attack one factor, like the acetylcholine, one factor. While Dr. Bredesen, in The End of Alzheimer's, mentions about at least 36 factors that you could work on. But then again, I will tell you later on that maybe 80% of it is related to what you're eating, a couple of vitamins, whether you're exercising, whether you doing things to improve your memory. So it's not going to, in the end, be 36. The main ones, 70-80%, will be about 5 different factors, and I will tell you what they are. So great news is this can be helped. It can be helped prevented, and that's the way I want to look at it. And so what do we think of dementia and Alzheimer's disease? Well, we're missing a few words. we no longer can find our way when we're driving. We can't remember people's names slowly. And some of that it is almost normal as we get older. Past 85, 50% of the people have serious problems with their missing a few words. Some of us, it starts even in the 40s, but there are things we can do about that. Even on my website, kachmannhealth.com, you see at the bottom of the screen there, I have Rudy's Brain Gym. Yeah, I designed that maybe 5 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. There are things you can do to keep a good memory. It take you months to go through it, but do some of that every day, like Word of the Day. There's music on there. It has like Luminosity, different websites that it leads you to improve your memory. Yeah, I look at some of those every day. They're doing some puzzles, things like that, to improve your memory are important. Let me tell you something which isn't Dr. Bertha's book here. You never change things. Remember, I'm trying to change things, okay? By fighting the existing reality. What's the existing reality? Can be helped. Dementia, Alzheimer's disease is progressive. You're going to eventually die. Go to the nursing home, live into the role. Nothing can be done. That's the existing reality. It even exists at a medical school level. You go to the average neurologist. That's the speech you're going to get from that. I don't agree with it, okay? And neither do these doctors that I have mentioned. And Peter Whitehouse, for example, is the head neurologist at the Cleveland Clinic, probably the most respected medical institution in the country, along with the Mayo Clinic. Yeah, Cleveland is number one in the country in terms of medical care. So you never change things by fighting the existing reality. You try to fight this, and you get bowled over by the drug companies, by the brainwash providers. That ain't going to change anything. Don't fight them. But construct a new model that make the existing model obsolete. That's what I'm doing. And I've been doing it actually for a long time. They're predicting this huge tsunami of millions upon millions of demented people, 20, 30 million people. What I'm saying is you follow the protocol I gave at the end, majority of that can be tremendously delayed or prevented, okay? And you hear, well, we inherit the gene for that, okay? They have discovered the ApoE4-3 and the ApoE3 and 4, and if you have, for example, the ApoE3 is not as unfriendly. Many of us carry one from the mother, one from the father, and if you have those, if you don't do anything, okay, don't do anything to prevent it, probably 9% chance of developing a severe dementia, okay? If they have the ApoE4, that's a more dangerous one, you have one of those, you probably have a 30% chance of developing dementia if you don't do anything to prevent it, which I'll speak about today. If you have both ApoE4s, then 70% chance if you do nothing. You would say a type 2 diabetic and you decide not to get to a normal weight, eat the right food, take a few vitamins, don't exercise, probably 70% chance you'll have some form of dementia. So there is some genetic component, but what I'm speaking mostly about is genetic expression by not eating right, by eating too much sugar. Sugar is the main booger in Hooker. Yeah, that's the main guy. Being overweight, for example. Yeah, and this is true, but remember I said this is a judgment-free zone. There's tremendous hope, but they have found, and if you can read about it in David Perlmutter's book, Brain Grain, what he's saying there, watch the amount of gluten that you eat because it punches holes in your gut, and you're much more likely to develop dementia. Oh yeah, excellent book to read. I highly recommend it. And what he's saying is scientific studies have shown that if your HbA1c, that's 3 months of blood sugar, okay, that measures 3 months of blood sugar, they can directly correlate it to the size of your brain. Yeah. HbA1c, you're diabetic, once you reach 6.4 or so, okay? And you're pre-diabetic, before that. And they have shown that the average HbA1c in this nation is around 8. Mm-hmm. Most of us are walking around with elevated blood sugars. So what's going to happen to most of us? Get the 50 diseases related to diabetes. Mm-hmm. And dementia is one of them, okay? Preventable, stoppable, reversible. They also, and this one will really get you, remember, a judgment-free zone that they have shown scientifically in the graphs in this book, they can correlate the size of your brain. They do with MRI studies, okay? They measure the size of the brain. They can correlate it to your waist measurement. Mm-hmm. Would you believe it? To your waist measurement, whether you have pot belly or not, you're much more likely to have diabetes. And to your HbA1c, yeah. So if you're way overweight, again, judgment-free zone, you get a smaller brain. And they've proven it by measuring it. Science. It's right in here. The graphs are showing. No one's told this. They don't know that. So I'm providing the information. Well, what I'm saying is we can reverse that. And the emphasis by Dr. Peter Whitehouse, by Dr. Bredesen, by Dr. Perlmutter is drugs don't work. Maybe a month or two, that's about it. That's not the answer to the problem, okay? So let's continue here. Eli Lilly spent $1 million to work on one drug, but the only darn thing is there are about 36 to less than 100 factors that affect your memory. One drug ain't going to solve this problem. 2 or 3 aren't going to solve this problem. But lifestyle changes, which I'll be speaking about more as we go on here, and you can pretty well guess as one of them is already, are much more important. And they can be working on the drugs at the same time. I didn't say don't do any research, but work with the existing information is what we're doing today, okay? Eloise Alzheimer, was described around 1910, and everybody thinks it's a fatal disease, and we think we have this this epidemic across this nation of Alzheimer's disease. We're all going to be living in a nursing home. Wrong, wrong, wrong. But this is the picture that's being sold across this nation, okay? And for example, like I told you, the story about the Amish. A guy loses a few words, they give him a job. They give him a job, okay? And they give him work to do. He gets exercise, positive thinking, not much stress because of love of the family. A lot of stress eaters, that leads to obesity, type 2 diabetes, and memory loss. So stress reduction is one of them. So, and you now understand that there are some genetic changes been demonstrated, the ApoE3, the ApoE4, and if you have ApoE4, you get one from father, one from the mother. Your odds, if you don't follow good health habits, the odds of you getting advanced dementia, 70%. Yeah. I mean, if you want to call the whole thing dementia and not even use the word Alzheimer's disease, I'd be okay with that, because that doesn't appear to be really one specific thing that just does it. Okay, it's gene expression of many genes. And what they've found in the brain that people who develop dementia, memory loss, they have found some pathology, but they are not, don't know 100% certain exactly the science of it. But I'll discuss it with you, okay? There's the amyloid hypothesis, where a certain protein called amyloid will deposit itself with the proteins in between the neurons, okay? And you can see them on the latest scans. And then there are fibrillary, so it's beta amyloid, okay? And the other one is fibrillary tangles. These are proteins that go directly into the cellular structure. The first one I mentioned, the deposits that are between the vertebra and the fibrillary tangles go right into the nucleus and interfere with the metabolism. But they even autopsied people in the 80s, 90s, and 100s and found there are some patients who have all kind of fibrillary tangles, all kind of amyloid deposits, and they have normal brain function. Then they have others who have abnormal brain function, and there are no tangles in the brain or amyloid deposits. So the anatomy is not totally worked out. But what they have determined, though, they have determined some things, which I'll speak about, is that we have axons and dendrites. The cell sends a message down the axon, and there's a synaptic gap, okay, which drugs have to jump across, or neurotransmitters they're called, okay? And we have trillions of neurotransmitters, okay? We have 100 billion brain cells, but we got 200 or 300 trillion neurotransmitters, like epinephrine, acetylcholine. These are dopamine, serotonin, the feel-good stuff, okay? I had a cup of coffee, I suspect that was dopamine. That may feel good for an hour or two, that's serotonin. Those are neurotransmitters. They have found between the axon and the dendrite that just before the synapse, they found a protein called an APP that sticks up. They found that has a lot to do with Alzheimer's disease. It was Candace Pert, 1972, at NIH, who discovered the opiate receptor, okay? And since then, we found out every cell, yeah, this is interesting, every human cell, 70 trillion body cells, all got receptors on them, about 10,000 a cell. Yeah. So when I'm looking at somebody, what am I seeing? I'm seeing these receptors wiggling and dancing and shimming, looking for chemicals, okay? So we have this APP receptor that is close to the synapse, and they have found that this amyloid affects this receptor a great deal. It can slice it in half, and that it causes neuro improvement of the cells, or it can divide it, slice it twice, and end up with and that is what interferes with the memory, okay? And your memory, this is fascinating, your memory actually is located in little tiny balls called vesicles, nano-size, okay? Right at the synapse. They've seen them with electron microscopes. You see this little ball sitting there? That's your memory. Isn't that fascinating? I found that to be they now know where your memories are located. So, as already mentioned, Alzheimer's can be prevented in many cases. Cognitive decline can be reversed by proper lifestyle, exercise, keeping your vitamins up, for example. So, besides advanced dementia, we have subjective cognitive impairment. That's where you're missing a few words now and then, and you interpret that subjective cognitive impairment. Now, for that point, you bring out what end of Alzheimer's book is recode. Make sure you don't have diabetes, proper weight, exercise, proper vitamins, some hormones. You may get rid of that. They've proven that, okay? Studies have been shown, okay? The next advance will be mild cognitive impairment, MCI. That's where you've gotten a little bit worse. You may see in your life that is appearing again. If you institute Rudy's Brain Gym or the programs, in Pearl Mooter's or Bredeson's book, or Peter Whitehouse book, that can be reversed or improved. A drug ain't going to do it. Isn't that wonderful news? Okay. And so I already went through the statistics. You know, if you have an ApoE4, you get one from your mother or father. Now, you might say to run some cognitive test, a cognoscope, they called it, a cognoscope. Well, I mean, if you get a serious problem, people who have Alzheimer's and advanced dementia, age 40 and 50, mom and dad, well, maybe you want to get it. But you can do genetic testing and see if you have these genes. But I think you ought to think about whether you want or not. You know, if you're pretty normal and you get a mild problem, do you want to know that you have an APO4, one from your mother and one from your father? Do you want to know that? Get up that way every day? I think that could be questioned. Another way to look at it might be, you know, I'm having a little bit of trouble, but I'm going to recode my body and follow Dr. Kachmann's or these doctors' recommendations and see if I don't get better without knowing this, that you got this gene. I think this is a decision. I don't think I just get it done like that. There are also a series of blood tests you can have done, and I'll go over those. And you may want to get some of them and at least settle it whether you're pre-diabetic or not would be a good start. But to get the detailed hormonal tests and everything, I think help you decide. But the main booger and hooker is type 2 diabetes. That's the main guy. That's 70–80% of it. They now have found that the sugar combines with proteins, forms AGEs, advanced glycation end products, and they deposit themselves and interfere with nerve conduction, and that the brain cells develop insulin resistance. Then there comes an IGF-1 factor in the AGEs, so the IGF-1, insulin resistance, advanced glycation products cause the memory loss and damage in the brain. So if you prevent your diabetes, which you can do in 90 days, 90% of the time, actually in about 30, 60 days, yeah. End of diabetes, Dr. Furman. Goodbye, diabetes, Dr. Youngberg. Go on to CashmanHealth.com and look at my diabetes prevention tape, 1 hour, public access lecture, a lot of them on there, and watch those, okay? So Cashman Health, that's my website, YouTube, right on there, and look at my 1 hour free lectures, and how to get rid of type 2 diabetes 90% of the time, yeah, in about a month. Yeah, again, it's one of those things, they don't tell you that. You go to a diabetic doctor and you want, here's your script. They don't say, well, if you lose 20 pounds, you won't have your diabetes in about 30 days. Mark Hyman and Blood Sugar Solutions is DVD. He wrote a book too, excellent book to read. Your blood sugars probably would be normal in a week. You got to call your doctor that you're going to do this and check your blood more frequently, because if you're eating right, 70–80% nutrient-dense diet, 20% organic meat, your blood sugars are going to dive. Remember that, because you could go into hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia, hypo being the real dangerous one. So let your doctor know you're going to do this. Of course, do it. So this is not, especially get these tests past age 40 or so. That's extremely important, although type 2 diabetes, a lot of teenagers got it today. What I recommend, get your blood work done once a year starting age 1. I'm the only one in the country who recommends it. Why is that? Most of your kids have insulin resistance and diabetes and get any complications. They're going to have a heart attack in their 30s and 40s. Preventable, stoppable, reversal. Rudy's good news, okay? So get the testing done early. And start the program early, okay? And there are a lot of chemical changes occurring in your brain at an early step. So you already know subjective cognitive impairment, okay? Mild cognitive impairment, that's an advance, okay? And then the gene testing, if you want to get that. And Bredesen published a number of case studies, not millions, because NIH won't fund it. Why won't they fund a lot of these long-term studies? Because the drug companies have given them a lot of money. I know, I researched it. It's the same thing with the narcotics epidemic, okay? Yeah. They won't change the definition of pain. That's the problem, okay? Same thing here, same thing here. These drug companies have provided a lot of money to these congressmen, and it's not going to change. You got to gather this information and do it yourself, so in the end that you recode your brain, that you avoid these things. Alzheimer's disease has been divided sort of in three subtypes, okay? One is information. That's one of the first things, that the brain becomes, and the body becomes inflamed. What does it? Sugar does it. Bad fats do it. A big cause of inflammation. Most people who have a heart attack, many of them in pre-diabetes, bang, grab their chest, and they die. They've had inflammatory diseases from the inflammation caused by the excessive amount of sugar they're eating. We need about 35 grams a day, maybe. We're eating 200 grams a day. That's why our nation is going like this. Look around you. Go to a restaurant. Look around you. And it's not believable. But the people are in denial and delusion. They don't know that, okay? Their brain is going to be smaller. Remember I talked about it? Well proven, which the HbA1cs, the three months of blood sugars, they get a smaller brain. Been proven. Pictures right in this book, Grain Brain by Perlmutter. It's right in there, okay? And these sugars cause what's called oxidative stress or free radical formation. When the outer layer of a molecule jumps out, an electron jumps out, it causes a lot of damage to our normal brain and cells in our body. So free radical formation is the cause of a lot of this. And the brain is trying to defend itself against these threats and start some inflammation. So we have an inflammatory diet. What's an inflammatory diet? To eat a lot of high-fat foods, to eat a lot of sugar. That's an inflammatory diet. To fat, they think now is an organ. If you have a lot of fat sitting on your body, judgment-free zone, okay? It's like having an extra gland. There's a lot of inflammation in the fat. So a good blood test for that is a CRP, indicates the amount of inflammation in your body. If it's over 1, it's abnormal. Homocysteine is another good blood test. I may not name all the blood tests, but I'll name a lot of them because they're extensive. But to get a CRP, homocysteine, glucose tolerance test with a serum insulin, that's the big one. You can weigh 250, have a normal blood sugar, and say, yo, you're not diabetic. But if you check the serum insulin, it's elevated, and you know, you're pre-diabetic. The reason I say we need to diagnose people 10, 15 years earlier is because all the 50 different diseases of type 2 diabetes, from heart attacks, strokes to minds, occur in pre-diabetes. Can prevent it, stop, reverse. That's the good news, okay? So we have an inflammatory type, ALZ, from poor diet, lack of exercise would be another reason. Exposure to toxic metals or biotoxins is another cause of it. For example, constantly using sprays, for example. Today, for example, things you're eating, a lot of us sprayed. You can get an apple, say, at one of the markets. It looks beautiful, beautiful colors and all that. You know what actually happened? They picked it in California, you stopped in Colorado, they put spray on it to make it look good, and you eat it, okay? I'll tell a little funny story here, because I couldn't kill a mouse, so I have a woodchuck living under my house, 6 years. I called him Woody, okay? Now, Woody, I can give him an apple from the market. I can put him a real shiny thing, okay? And one that doesn't look so good. He won't eat the real shiny thing because it represents a spray. They can now chemically reproduce every taste there is. McNuggets, for example, are paste. Most of the time, it's not even chicken. I know. Someone accidentally gave me chicken McNuggets, thinking I was thinking I was getting some coffee, and I've driven to Van Wert, and halfway there I want my coffee, and my God, it's McNuggets. I don't eat those things, so I gave them to Woody. Woody wouldn't eat them. Well, he's a vegetarian for one thing, but other animals, raccoons, for example, wouldn't touch them. Then I finally figured out, that's a spray. That's a spray, okay? So we expose a lot of chemicals, and they can cause dementia. So you should eat fresh vegetables, organic foods, because these sprays can affect your memory, the amount of toxin in your body. Matter of fact, they check the umbilicus of children being born. They get 200 foreign toxins in them. That's been scientifically determined. Yeah. So what mother and father eat before even fertilization and in the uterus determines what happens to the baby. Are you providing a lot of toxins for your baby? So children are born sometimes diabetic. Why is that? What mother and father were eating, toxins they were exposed to. Part of the time, not every case. Some is due to a virus and stuff, but a lot of times is what parents are consuming. Okay, and so then the third type is atrophic ALZ. Well, atrophic means brain cells have died. What could do it? I tell you a big one. I saw it as a neurosurgeon. I was a neurosurgeon 45 years. Now I'm a wellness doctor. Okay. Alcohol. Yeah. And I don't look at it from a moral standpoint at all. Like 2 or 3 glasses of wine a week, that seems to be okay. Alcohol will shrink the brain. My God, I saw patients with the brain not far off the skull, and they would, mainly spinal fluid, and then they'd bump their head, and blood would form, and then they'd come in there with huge blood clots. So I'd operate on them, and then the brain wouldn't come back up to the skull because the brain cells have been killed. Biggest cause of brain atrophy, alcohol. Excessive alcohol by a long shot. Almost every alcoholic has a shrunken brain. It can be huge. I saw cases where the whole brain was shifted over that far off the skull. Brain gone, dead. Will not, maybe a little bit come back, but not much. Yeah. If you stop drinking, you can reverse some of your cognitive decline if it's mild. But once it really gets going, it's a toughie. So alcohol is a big toxin to the brain and causes atrophic dementia. So that's part of the prevention thing, the amount of alcohol you consume. From my reading here, 2 or 3 glasses of wine a week has resveratrol, might even be good for you. I'm not sure there's been huge studies to prove that, but some. But in general, alcohol is a neurotoxin. Cigarettes do it too. Yep. Cigarettes cause shrinkage of your brain because the vasculature, when you smoke a cigarette, the whole body's inflamed. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's true. And it causes some brain shrinkage. Incidentally, Gary Taub's latest book, The Case Against Sugar, very interesting to read, a great book to read. There's sugar in every cigarette. I never spoke to another human being that knew that. Yeah. There is sugar in every cigarette. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. About a quarter of a cigarette is sugar. And the reason is when they're curing it, okay, about a week after they found that the Kentucky tobacco, the leaves have holes in them. So after they cure them and dry them, they put them in molasses and sugar. I swear to God. Yeah, it's true. Gary Taubes, he wrote a whole chapter on it. Mm-hmm. Never met a doctor, anyone who ever knew that. I found it to be fascinating. He has a whole chapter in that book. So, and it is sugar that makes the smoke acidic. And that's what opens the alveoli that allows the nicotine into the blood system and all the chemicals that affect your body. Without sugar in cigarettes, it wouldn't be as addictive because it's alkaline smoke. you'd be coughing. You wouldn't be smoking. When I think back about it in high school, the reason I never smoked, I remember hiding in the bathroom and lighting one up, and I coughed myself to death, and I quit. That was it for me. And fortunately, then I tried a pipe, and I developed diarrhea, which didn't stop. That's the end of my smoking days. It's a true story. We got to have a little humor here, okay? And what does severe dementia, Alzheimer's disease cause? Facial blindness, don't recognize a face, decreased mental clarity, loss of interaction, reading, remembering things that you're reading, okay? Decreased recall what you read, decreased vocabulary, missing a few words, substituting words, increased anxiety, driving, getting lost, sleep disruption, can't seem to sleep through the night, no longer getting a burst from coffee. Wow, now I know I don't have it, because I find out now 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day actually help your heart, help your brain, because I sure have it in the morning. See, we all have these neuroreceptors that when we get up, most of us are a little bit depressed. I have coffee, bingo, I'm in heaven. Instead of a cigarette, some people light up, they need that. I walk in nature, I talk to nature. Now I'm taking singing lessons, I sing to nature. What does that do? Gets a neurotransmitter of optimism. I'm getting rid of stress. Stress is part of memory loss. So if you have time, take a walk in nature. That's a big one. Look at the leaves, look at the flowers, sing a song. Stress reliever, big time. And increasing difficulty speaking foreign languages. That's a common thing that's seen in Alzheimer's disease. So how do you give yourself dementia and Alzheimer's disease? By eating an inflammatory diet, okay, eating sugary foods, being overweight, lack of vitamins and minerals. If you were eating many foods of color, usually you're almost getting all the vitamins and minerals. And what it is the interaction of the vitamins, the minerals, the phytochemicals, 300 at least, their interaction lead to good health. That's what leads to good health. To take an isolated vitamin, the industry doesn't want you to know this. They don't work. They hardly work at all, okay? It's the interaction of eating them in their original source. That is, you're fulfilling a nutrient need. In the mornings, this would be a great habit for you, incidentally. Great habit. Learn about smoothies. You can read about books, website. Dr. Joel Fuhrman, Quick Fix, very good book to read. Breakfasts, lunches, dinners, he has pictures. And the big thing with smoothies in there, I have a smoothie every day. It satisfies my nutrient need. I don't get hungry. I'm not hungry till 4 or 5 o'clock because I had that smoothie. I had one today, a green thing. And the kale, curcumin, and vegetables, and frozen fruit, and just pile it all in there and get a Vitamix machine or a Nutri-G machine, or there's a bunch of them now. Some cheaper than others. You make soups out of them. Have one every day. That fulfill your nutrient need. You eat all you want. That's the point. I never said go on a diet. I said eat different food. Most people are way overweight. They're eating the wrong food. They're eating the wrong food. That's the main problem. And then increase your exercise a bit. While I'm on that, let's talk about that a little bit. A good walk every day, for example. I play tennis and pickleball. You don't have to do that. Or work out at the gym. You don't have to do that. Take a nice walk. Take a walk in nature. And if you're at work, for example, get a treadmill desk or a stand-up desk, or keep some light weights. Or at lunch, take a walk, because this causes neuroplasticity, brain cell growth, uses up some calories. I wrote a book called Sitting Disease. It's on Amazon. You could read that. They proved through NASA research that it's gravity. Everything is in gravity. If I stand up, that triples the calorie burn because of gravity needs energy to satisfy itself, okay? And we are living a life of no gravity. People sit all day and eat munchies and watch a football game instead of playing themselves. And We're losing gravity, which affects our brain, our heart, everything, which is making us sick. That's why we have so much illness. 1 out of 2 people in this nation is pre-diabetic, and what do you think you're going to have? They're going to get memory loss. Remember, if you're overweight, you get a smaller brain. Proven by the HbA1c, by belly measurements. I can show you the graphs. This has been scientifically studied. And so let's go on the path here. Sugary foods, lack of vitamins, eating too much gluten. Gluten, that's the reason I like Perlmutter's book called Grain Brain. What he's saying, too many grains punches holes in your gut, and chemicals that your body rejects are making us sick. I can name 50 autoimmune diseases, and dementia is one of them. We don't check, get a test, get a gluten test. Then we have gluten sensitivity. Doctors hardly ever run the test. If you go to Australia, they check 100% of the people. There's a new neurologist that joined my old group, and she was saying to me, when I couldn't get the other neurologist to run the gluten test, she runs one on everybody. Interesting. Why is that? Because a lot of neurological diseases are caused by gluten. The next decade will be the decade of the gut. We're finally going to concentrate on the guys living in our gut, which is trillions of bacteria and firmicutes. That's the main bacteria and viruses living in our gut. Okay. When they're not properly treated with the wrong food. That's what really causes most of our disease. That will be the decade of the gut coming up, where we'll learn a lot more about that. And lack of vitamin D can increase dementia, because that has to do with the APP receptor. Remember we spoke about that. There are reparative amyloids and the disease-causing amyloids. No exercise. Okay, remember exercise causes brain cell growth. It's called neuroplasticity. Exercise increases. We have a certain number of brain cells die every day. Yeah, but if you exercise and do some cognitive training by looking like Rudy's brain gym, you can build your brain up and develop more brain cells than you're destroying every day. Every day we lose some brain cells, okay? Lack of brain stimulation. That's the reason I like Rudy's brain gym there. I've got on websites and puzzles and card playing and exercise and music and a whole list of things that you could do every day that would stimulate your brain. That's important. They found a tremendous difference in the incidence of dementia between educated and non-educated people. Well, for one thing, non-educated may be smoking more and drinking more because of stress. They don't have good jobs. Stress. This is not a negative statement. I'm just saying they're under more stress. I have lunch and learns in some factories, and I find 80% are smoking. Then one of the guys stops me at one of the fast food places where I like that coffee. I don't eat the food. He says, incidentally, Doc, a lot of us drink too. So some people who have addictive habits, it's not just one, it's two. Some even taking narcotics. Don't accept a narcotic script unless you get cancer or you had an acute heart attack or some clear cut. 80% of the people take a narcotic, we don't know why they hurt. Should not be given a narcotic, don't take a narcotic. Once you're addicted to it, your life is in the tank. And prevention is a heck of a lot easier than to get over an addiction. We only cure 10% of the addicts. Mm-hmm. Prevention is big. Prevention is big. So to keep some gluten out of our lives and decrease our sugar. Remember, we only need about 30 grams a day. We're eating 200 grams a day to reduce stress. Exercise regularly. Maybe when you get in a blood test, get a B12 checked, get a vitamin D, CRP, get that lipid profile, and get that 6-hour glucose tolerance test with a serum insulin, fasting 1 hour, 2 hour, blood sugar serum insulin together, and you get some idea whether you're way ahead in the curve for prediabetes, and then get to a reasonable weight, exercise regularly. Your diabetes, goodbye. Dementia, goodbye. Isn't that wonderful news? But we're not doing it. We're not screening people. We're just running blood sugars. We got to be running serum insulins. And believe me, they are resistant to change. But I'm out there with it. Believe me, I've been at the hospitals. I've been God knows everywhere, and nobody wants to change because why? I don't know. Maybe there's money in sick people. Could that be the answer? I don't know. I don't know, but it doesn't stop me. Okay, and very interesting. So we have the receptor theory of dementia, which I think you're beginning to understand because of this APP receptor at the cellular level, and it has to do with amyloid. There's good amyloid and there's bad amyloid, and we need to see that we're in the course of the good amyloid that repairs our brain cells instead of destroying them. Okay, so the chemicals are there can be synoblastic, improve them, or synoclastic, destroy them. Depends whether there's one cut or two cuts of that APP receptors, and that is determined by the 36 different factors that we could work on to improve ourselves. Again, from exercise to the type of food, to the vitamins, to the homocysteine, to the glucose tolerance test, to the vitamin B6 can be included, vitamin B12. And I want you to aim at the main ones because that's 78% of the time. If you have someone in the family who already looks like they getting pretty serious, I think I get to read this book at end of Alzheimer's and look at the 36 factors and maybe follow every one of them. That's a lot of work. I'm not convinced most people to do that who have, mild cognitive impairment or subjective cognitive impairment. If they did what I already mentioned, I think they'd be fine. But if it's a little beyond that, I follow the 36 factors, which will be significant work. But at least there's hope. I'm giving you hope, okay? And cognition is dependent, too, a bit on our hormones, our testosterone level, estrogen level, thyroid level. So that in some people, they need to be checked because they will, besides the sugar, affect our receptor that we talk about. But that receptor really is the king of it. They have determined that. The research has shown that receptor next to the synapse, remember there's a synapse, that receptor sticking up here, that guy appears to be clearly the one that causes dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So that's pretty clear now. So as we age, many of us are missing a few words, and these receptors are kind of downsizing a bit. They're not quite as active, but also, we may not be working as hard. We may not be exercising as much. So that could be part of it. And the way Dr. Bredesen looked at this, remember I keep on mentioning the 36, he looks at it like a house. Pretend this is your house and you're having a dementia problem. It's got 36 holes in your house. You got 36 holes in your house and you need to repair them one by one to stop, prevent, reverse this problem, okay? But some of us have more holes than others, okay? If we did the big stuff I talked about, probably that would MCI, cognitive impairment or mild subjective impairment. If we repaired 5 or 6 of those bigger holes, the exercise, the diet, stress reduction, some positive things, learning new things, looking at Rudy's brain gym, you did that, you probably will be fine. Okay, be sure to look at that, cashmanhealth.com, and keep on looking at our site, because I have lectures there on how to get rid of diabetes once a month, and I'm going to expand this. I've been speaking to internet guys. I want to expand my website tremendously, so keep on looking at that for information. You need information. We all need information. I read a book every 3 days. You don't have to read a book every 3 days, but maybe look at my website every day, and you'll be a lot healthier. 10 minutes, bang, have a look. Attend our lectures, read the books I recommend. And a lot of the studies here have been on Alzheimer's have been done in mice, but they found that there's not, as you'd expect, they don't have a frontal lobe, much relationship, and they called it Mouseheimer disease. Okay, they have discovered the genes in mice. You won't believe this. Yeah, this is science. Okay, they've discovered a gene in mice that they can alter a gene, and it's a female. They can alter a gene, it's a male. They can even alter a gene and determines homosexuality in mice. Yeah, they did. And I heard anybody say that in humans, but it sure as heck can. This guy can do all that. And he can induce memory loss. He can induce good memory, normal weight, overweight, specific gene in mice. Isn't that fascinating? Okay? It takes about $2.5 billion to develop a new drug. But what did I say? We get 36 to 100 holes. 36 to 100 holes. What's one drug going to do? Nothing. What's my lifestyle and Rudy's brain gym and getting these blood tests and following some of the recommendations of the doctors here? What's that going to do? A lot in most cases. Not every case, but in most cases. That magical drug ain't going to happen. I'll tell you that right now. I want them to continue the research. That's wonderful. And what they're doing is they're looking for the God gene, the one gene that's doing it. Well, the one gene has not existed. It's not existed. So let's do the things that are durable. These dementia things occur as a protective response that causes inflammation. For example, it's trying to protect the brain, but in essence, it's causing the problem. And the God gene is not going to be discovered. I'll tell you right now, these doctors don't think so. I don't think so. Okay, and so there needs to be a balance of the reparative genes versus the classic destructive genes. And I mentioned to you all the things that you could do to help them repair themselves instead of destroying themselves. Okay, so again, the good blood tests are CRP, glucose tolerance test. Another good one is the albumin globulin ratio, because that has to do with repair. Interleukin 6 test, amount of inflammation. Okay, and avoiding the chemicals. For example, I know of a doctor actually had a big apple farm, a peach farm, and he was using chemicals all the time, and he died of a neurodegenerative disease of a young age. I don't know for certain, but don't you wonder that his memory went to heck? That was the first thing. Don't you suspect that he had the toxic form of Alzheimer's disease from all these chemical sprays? Turned out, I find out that the guy that sold him all these chemicals he used for 10, 15 years, the same guy that sold him died from the same darn thing. Severe neurodegenerative disease. May not be related, but I am suspicious. So be careful the chemicals, that you work with, because you can develop the atrophic part of the disease. But the easiest ones to avoid, of course, is in order: alcohol, cigarettes, narcotics. They cause brain atrophy. And then if you decide to get none of the tests, so let's summarize things a little bit, okay? I mean, let's do decision making. should you get the genetic screening? It's up to you. Some people, oh, I got to know. Well, I wouldn't want to know. Suppose someone told me I had ApoE4 from mother and father. Mine lived to be close to 100. My mother, 97, had a little memory loss. Sure. Does she have an ApoE4? I don't know. I think she didn't have that good of hobbies. Maybe it's due to that. Her sister, same age, had very good habits of traveling and playing cards. So I don't want to know. I'm just going to follow the habits. I weigh 135 pounds. I eat right. I exercise. I take dance lessons, singing lessons. I'm writing books. I give lectures. I'm using my brain. Am I complimenting myself? No. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel good. So maybe I can, hit 105 with a good memory. I don't know. Okay. But I'm trying. I'll find out. I'll let you know. I'll come back and let you know. So, but if you feel like I got to know, then run all these tests. If you want to run all 36, get a hold of that book. Otherwise, get the main ones. Start doing something about it. Don't live in denial. Don't live in delusion. Don't be type 2 diabetic, way overweight. You haven't been properly tested and keep on leading your life. And you, on average, type 2 diabetic who does nothing about it will die 30 years longer. In 35 years, they'll be in disability, amputations, dislocated joints, dementia. All can be prevented, reversed the majority of the time. What I think probably is that a tremendous number of people are living in delusion and denial. This is a judgment-free zone. I just keep on mentioning it to try to get people to change. What's the first thing you do when you walk into a lot of churches? They hand you a donut. Sugar. Is that healthy? No. It should be hummus, nice vegetables. That's what God would want. It even says in the Bible. God lives within us. We're responsible for our body. Okay? So take some responsibility for your body and participate in your health care. Come to our lectures. Look at my website, KachmannHealth.com. Maybe read some of the books. Maybe get a hold of Dr. Furman's book, Quick Fix, How to Make Smoothies, How to Eat Right. If you did one thing, just start drinking a smoothie every day and took a nice walk with your dog every day, that'd be a heck of a start. Yeah. That'd be a heck of a start. You'd probably turn 50% around at that time. The reason I'm doing this, I'm trying to pass out information because I think the industry has the information frozen. They don't want you to know. I don't know their reason. I do it because I love you, care about you. And people do want to know. The average person does want to know. It's our job. Physician means teacher. I'm trying to be a teacher. So watch our public access TV shows, read my books, give me a hug, buy me a cup of coffee. We'll both feel better. Okay. I love you all. Watch and we thank Public Access for allowing us to be here. And namaste. We'll see you all soon. And thanks very much.